more than 800 years of Islamic presence in much of the Iberian Peninsula and the Balearic Islands gave rise to one of the most prolific, rich, and varied legacies that have shaped the history and identity of Spain, a social and cultural melting pot that left a deep mark and can now be experienced, visited, and enjoyed in many ways. Some of these experiences are shared with you here in Spain, Andalusian Experience. Today we are going to discover the Andalusi legacy in Aragon. The Aljaferia is the northernmost palace of Islamic origin in Europe, and its Mudéjar art was declared a World Heritage Site in 2001. It was a recreational residence of the Muslim kings and reflects the splendor achieved by the Taifa Kingdom of Zaragoza at its greatest political and cultural peak, during the period of Al-Andalus. The oldest preserved building of the complex is the Troubadour Tower, whose lower floors date back to the 9th century. It was then a place of observation and defense of the city during the Umayyad era. The tower was later integrated into the Andalusi Palace, built in the 11th century by the Banu Hud, kings of the Taifa of Zaragoza. It has been a fortified enclosure, the Aragonese royal residence, the headquarters and prison of the Inquisition, the palace of the Catholic monarchs, barracks and, since 1987, the brand new headquarters of the Aragonese courts. The Aljaferia is the northernmost palace of Islamic origin in Europe, but the borders of Al-Andalus reached even further north, very close to the Pyrenees. We traveled to Huesca, to a village surrounded by the beautiful landscapes and forests of the Sierra de Guara, to show you the castle of Alquizar. The Alquizar castle was built in the 9th century by Jalaf ibn Rashid, one of the main Andalusi military and political figures of Upper Aragon, founder of the city of Barbastro and creator of a dynasty that ruled areas of Huesca for more than 80 years. In the 11th century, the king of Aragon, Sancho Ramirez, conquered the castle and built a Romanesque church, of which part of the cloister remains. This construction was built to reinforce the defense against the Christians on the northern border. It gives us beautiful views and takes us to the confines of the extensive territory occupied by Al-Andalus in Spain. We traveled about 300 kilometers south to reach another border area, known as the Middle Mark of the Caliphate. Here you will find Albarracin, one of the best-known towns in Teruel. It was a medina, an Andalusi city that even became the center of a small independent kingdom, the Taifa of Albarracin. The city was formed and grew around this citadel, and ended up being walled in the 10th century. To the north, the Andador Tower was built, from which access to the Medina was controlled. With the fall of the Caliphate of Córdoba in the 11th century, the Banu Razan proclaimed themselves independent lords, inaugurating a century of progress in which the city expanded northwards until reaching its current borders. The splendor of the Banu Razan and the independence of Albarracin ended in the year 1104. All of Aragon passed into Christian hands in 1118. But this did not mean the disappearance of the Andalusi legacy. On the contrary, the mixture of Islamic art with new Christian influences gave rise to Mudéjar art, and in 1986, the Mudéjar art of Teruel was declared a World Heritage Site. An example is the Salvador Tower, a gate tower with magnificent Mudéjar decoration on its exterior. At the top is the characteristic green and white ceramic that forms 8 pointed stars. The tower imitates the structure of a minaret almohad with 2 concentric square towers, between which the stairs are located. Its 3 interior rooms, as well as the bell tower and viewing point, house the interpretation center of Mudéjar architecture of Teruel. One of the most emblematic monuments of Teruel reflects the imprint of Mudéjar art. The oval staircase is a neo-Mudéjar construction, uniting 2 of the most important artistic movements in Teruel, Mudéjar architecture and the modernist style. It was built between 1920 and 1921, in order to connect the city center with the railway station, and it summarizes the image of Teruel and the mix of styles. UNESCO extended the declaration of World Heritage to the Mudéjar style of all of Aragon in 2001. Mudéjar is one of the great treasures of Aragon, but especially in the provinces of Teruel and Zaragoza. An art that we find spread across large and small towns, and also in rural environments. We are in Utibo, less than 15 kilometers from the city of Zaragoza. We are next to the Tower of Mirrors, named after the reflections and sparkles that the sun produces on the ceramics that cover it. This is a magnificent example of late Mudéjar style. We have returned to Zaragoza again. Here, the tower of the Church of San Pablo is one of the great jewels of the city. It dates back to the 14th century, and its interesting octagonal brick tower, with a minaret structure, dates from this period. On the banks of the Ebro is the Cathedral of San Salvador, known as La Sio. The Sio was built on the same site where there had previously been, successively, a Roman temple, a Visigoth church and a mosque during the Andalusí period. On one side of the cathedral is the Gothic Mudéjar wall, and looking at it creates a very unique experience. The Andalusi legacy in Aragon is also reflected in the art of creating something exquisite like the goulash.
Goulash, like many of the sweets of Spain, has a lot of Arabic influence.
Its history dates back to the time of Al-Andalus, when the Arabs introduced a preparation made from almonds and sugar, very similar to the nougat we know today.
We have a stone called Calatorio stone, a quarry that is right here, which made a spectacular table just to make this nougat. We take the almonds and the sugar, we mix them in the fire. Once these 2 products have been mixed, we add olive oil to that stone, and when we pour it out, the magic happens. the almonds begin to float, and that only happens with that stone. And only we have that stone. That is why it is a nougat that is unique in the world.
The Arab influence on Spanish gastronomy left an indelible mark, and goulash is a clear example of this. The Andalusí influence in Aragon takes us through unique heritage, experiences, and flavors, making Spain a one-of-a-kind country in Europe.